Hello. My name is Raymond Karczewski, and this is coming to you from my home here in Cave Junction, Oregon. The subject for tonight is Raymond Karczewski and Josephine County, Oregon government's House of Cards. It is a communication sent to a Miss Katie Connor, an investigative reporter with KTVL News in Medford, Oregon. Dear Katie, first of all, I want to thank you for your exposure of the sovereignty issue before the people, your viewers, who are unaware of their true political status. I was wondering what kind of response your station was receiving to the aired piece. I wore the gun on my hip at the interview for a reason. It was to flush out Sheriff Gilbertson once and for all, to admit that his policies and the conduct of his predecessor, Sheriff Dave Daniel, and the courts were unlawful, criminal, and scandalous in the nationwide multi-billion-dollar scam of licensing non-commercial travelers on Oregon roads. As you know, I cannot get anyone from Oregon government, from the governor's office to the Attorney General's office to the Josephine County District Attorney's office to the Sheriff's office to the courts to the Board of Judicial Review to answer the question of, does the court, the government, have jurisdiction over any living, breathing, flesh and blood, sentient natural man or woman who is not a member of the corporate de facto government and has not consented to grant jurisdiction to such unconstitutional court. For our administrative maritime courts are not constitutional and operate by contract. Until that night when I was pulled over by Josephine County deputies, shortly before my 65th birthday, I had never been arrested. I had a clean record. The actions of the Josephine County government politicos changed all that. They destroyed my reputation, kidnapped me, held me hostage for 128 days, 121 days in the hole, solitary confinement, for the presumed debts of their own juristic person creation. The pressure on my wife was tremendous, and by their unlawful behavior, it killed her. This issue of keeping secret that the fictional courts have no jurisdiction over living, breathing, flesh and blood people is responsible for millions of men and women who have been wrongfully imprisoned nationwide for the sake of commerce. Were anyone to look up my record, they would be directed to the juristic person, the fictional entity created by government, and assume it was me. They would find that entity to be a convicted felon several times over. The fact is, it has nothing to do with me whatsoever, this living, breathing, flesh and blood man. But the public cannot make that distinction. As you know, a convicted felon cannot possess a firearm. I, the living man, went to that interview armed. Sheriff Gilbertson, when observing that news piece, should have been over to my house and arrested me on the spot. He or his men have not, will not, because I have pushed their backs to the wall in demanding that they answer the question of jurisdiction accompanied by their sworn affidavit over me, the living, breathing, flesh and blood man. What is at stake can be found in the following file: http://tortjoko.html. As a result of the bogus 2 trials, the former Secretary of State Bill Bradbury removed all liens, including the valid joint lien against the state of Oregon and county of Josephine. These liens were not even part of the 2 trials, yet they, too, along with other liens, were removed. That is the degree they went to in order to cover their butts. However, there is no statute of limitation on fraud, and those liens remain valid and lawful to this day. Former Oregon Secretary of State Bill Bradbury committed a crime with the removal of such liens. The criminal conspiracy to cover up crimes committed against this living man, whom you interviewed, extends to all Oregon offices mentioned above. That's the story that should be pursued in the interest of the unaware public. That is the story that rivals or surpasses Watergate, because this kind of behavior is going on in every court in the land. Only no one has stood up to them as I have. They can single me out and make me out to seem like a lone nut, and they have assigned a squad of internet disinformation agents who have attached themselves to my writing for 9 years with that specific intent. My request is this: could you, with your camera, approach Gilbertson and Delashment about their violation of oath of office, presently being covered up by Josephine County Chief Financial Officer and Risk Manager Rosemary Delashment, who refuses to process the claim I have made on Gilbertson's breach of oath of office. And ask Gilbertson why he has not arrested me as a felon with a gun. The evidence is overwhelming and viewed by thousands of people who watched the interview that I was armed. Ask Delashment why she refuses to process the claim made on Gilbertson's bond. Therein lies Gilbertson's predicament. Will he arrest me, or will the whole fraudulent house of cards come tumbling down? Katie, I am betting my life and my freedom on what your management's decision is on this. Below are some comments I personally have received since the airing. I was stopped on the street by a retired Forestry Service employee who saw the TV interview, and he seemed quite excited about it, in full support of what is unfolding, and hoping something may come of it. Other comments were received from the moderator of Oregon Shout regarding my piece, People of Josephine County, shall we hold our public officials accountable, or shall we resign ourselves to be slaves? He says, your blog has had a few hits today. Keep plugging along. Someone is listening. About time. We the people held the elected and their agents accountable. The team at Oregon Shout and News and Views. Another comment was from a subscriber, Jude Gardner, of Worldwide Politics Forum. He says, I bet many will not stand with him, for that is the shame of things today in America. The subject he was responding to was the days are numbered for Josephine County, Oregon government. A political scandal that rivals Watergate is unfolding in Josephine County, Oregon. A story of one man who is every man, who understands who he is and his relationship with a government meant to serve man, not rule them. Who amongst you will stand to make that a reality, not just a dream? What man has done, all men are capable of doing in their own community. Stand behind this and let us take back our country and our lives. Thank you, Katie.